Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Celluloid, Bob Brack for short, I'm over Box. So today I'm going to rank the 15 studio albums by one of my favourite bands of all time, Heart. So just say, if you go on a discography for Heart, there is a 16th studio, but that's The Lovemongers Christmas. So that was originally under the side project name of The Lovemongers, which is Ann Wilson, Sue Ennis's and Nancy Wilson's side project, and they got rebranded as Heart. So I've not included that, it's proper Heart releases. So unlike a lot of people, I don't kind of distinguish between the 70s and 80s Heart. I got into the band in 1985 with the Heart album. I got the Bad Animals album. Around that time they started reissuing their original releases in the UK on a nice price when the Bad Animals songs were big hits, and I got Dreamboat Annie magazine, Dog and Butterfly, Little Queen and so on. So I've always just liked the two schools really. So ranking this 15's been interesting. I think having a listen back through the stuff, you just realise how many great songs this band's got. What great writers Ann and Nancy Wilson alongside Sue Ennis were. Really the guys don't really co-write much, it is the girls. And also the production by Mike Flicker on the early albums and later albums has always been sharp. Incredible vocals. Really strong musicianship, really cool drumming and bass playing, particularly on the 70s stuff. Really this band, in whatever incarnation, always had that top chemistry that always pays off for any great band. So my ranking at number 15 is 1982's Private Audition. I've always had a lot of problems with this album. It just feels like an album when the band were really in difficulties. Michael DeRosier and Steve Fossen leave after this. It opens with Cities Burning, which is really good. Then you got kind of poppy, bright out girl, Perfect Stranger, not that great. Private Audition, I can't really get away with that. Angels is a really nice song, lovely ballad. This Man Is Mine, not really into that. Situation's cool, nice sort of spacey stuff, co-written by Michael DeRosier. Hey Darling, Darling, not into that. One Word, really good. Fast Times, not into that. And America, quite a nice ballad. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5. The band produced it, but it's got quite a sort of tinny sound. It's just at that time for this band where they need to kind of think what they want to do, where they want to head. My next choice is Red Velvet Car. So this is one of the sort of more recent albums. This is from 2010. It's a canny enough album. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The title track, Sarafrona's Mark, Sand, Closer to the Sun, Hey You, Sunflower, Death Valley. There is some good tunes on this. It's just kind of lacking a bit of classic sort of Heart DNA. Lovely to see the branding back though, the lovely Heart logo. Number 13 is Jupiter's Darling, and this was their first album, studio album since Desire Walks On. This came out in 2004. This has actually got quite a lot to recommend it. The problem is it has 16 tracks and then there's 2 bonus tracks. There's just far too many tracks on it. But there's definitely 8 or 9 really cool tracks. There's Make Me, Oldest Story, Perfect Goodbye, Enough, Move On, I Need Rain, Led to One, Hello Moonglow, Lost Angel. And you've got a great version of How Deep It Goes off Dreamboat Annie. So, a bit of pruning on this album down to, say, 12 tracks. 11 tracks with the one bonus track of How Deep It Goes would have been a better album. And it doesn't totally gel together. It doesn't feel like cohesive. It just feels like a collection of songs put on an album. My next choice at number 12 is Fanatic. This is the album from 2012. This is stronger than the Jupiter's Darling and the Red Velvet Car. This has only got 10 tracks on it. It's pretty cohesive. It's quite kind of heavier, although it's got some tracks I don't like. The tracks that are good are really good. You got the title track Skin and Bones, Million Miles, Pennsylvania, Mashallah, which is really cool. Rock Deep. They also did Walking Good with Sarah McLachlan. So it's decent. I think 59 Crunch is quite interesting. Kind of bringing the guitars out more, the more the Zeppelin vibe. Just looking at it, it's recorded quite a lot of different studios. So, since it came back, this is one of the stronger releases. My number 11 choice is 1983's Passion Works. Now, I always really liked this album when I was young. I still do. It's you can see the band is starting to work out what they need to do. If you actually look at the videos from this era, the hair's starting to get a bit bigger at this time. So a bit more MTV. And tracks like How Can I Refuse and Allies are clearly kind of telegraphing where things will go on the Heart Howl album and when they switch to Capitol Records. But you've got How Can I Refuse, which I think is a great track. I saw them live on the Bad Animals tour in '88 and I hadn't actually heard this track. And when they played it live, it just stuck in your head instantly. And I was like, oh, that track's brilliant, I wonder what that's off. And when I was able to get the Passionworks album import from Shades Records in London, I wasn't disappointed. It benefits from having Keith Olsen as a producer of this, although the use of Simmons drums is fairly annoying. Blue guitar's good, Johnny Moon, Sleep Alone, Together Now. Side one's really strong on this album. Side two opens with the excellent Allies, written by Jonathan Cain, really good power ballad. Then you got Jealousy, Beat by Jealousy and Heavy Heart, which are pretty good, but, you know, not as good. Love Mistake, not great, don't like that. Language of Love's okay, Ambush isn't great, that's got horrible production. So this album's kind of like a 6 to 7 out of 10. It is a good record, it just tails off a bit. My number 10 choice is 2016's Beautiful Broken. This is the last album at this point that the band has made. As you may be aware, shortly after this there was a kind of falling out between the sisters to do with Ann Wilson's husband assaulting Nancy Wilson's kids, something like that, to do with letting the dogs out of the tour bus. I'm not sure what went on, but they had a big break and they were going to tour, but then the pandemic happened. So I mean, it's kind of cheating, this album, because it's only got 4 new tracks. It's got re-recordings of other tracks. And that's really a strength, because I like most of the other tracks and their re-recordings. That's why I've got this high. It's very well produced, this. It's recorded at Sunset Sound in Hollywood and Tom in Budapest, Hungary. But you got Beautiful Broken. That was the original version on the Fanatic Deluxe Edition, so that's interesting. So in actual fact, they'll probably only recorded 3 new songs for this. But Beautiful Broken is really good. It's got James Hetfield on vocals. You got the excellent 2. This is really, they've got an outside right with this, but it's a really good track. Then you got a new version of Sweet Darling off Bebe Lestrange. You know, you'd be seriously fucking up if you messed that song up. Then there's I Jump, which has got some really cool Led Zeppelin style strings. Johnny Moon from Passionworks re-recorded. Then they've got the song Heaven, which the original version is on a live in Seattle, so that hadn't been recorded yet. So again, now they're actually pulling together, if you think about it. They really haven't written any new songs. Down on Me off Bebe Lestrange, good version of that. One Word off Private Audition, one of the better tracks off that. And then Language of Love off Passionworks. There's better tracks I could have done off album, but it's decent. The main problem is City's Burning. They re-record that off Private Audition, but they do it slower without some of the other elements, so it's not as good a version. So really, it's just, this album really mainly is re-recorded versions of old tracks, and then it's got 2 tracks that already appeared in different formats. So maybe there was problems in the band, and like they just thought, we've got to put some out to tour, and I don't know. Anyway, so, but that is, you know, I'd rather listen to that than the other new stuff because it's got songs I like. Okay, so number 9, this is where we get into the real meat and veg of the sort of classic albums of Heart across the various eras. So after much deliberation and giving it a 7.5 out of 10, I picked Bebe Lestrange as my number 9 choice. For a lot of people, this is the last sort of great Heart album, the people who didn't like the Capitol era. I wasn't totally struck with this album when I got it, when I was a kid. Again, I bought this at Shades Records on import. But listening to now, it is a really good record, and you can see the band kind of wrestling with where they're at. They're trying to sort of get into the 80s, and you can hear the influence of a more stripped down production, but also elements of sort of post-punk and new wave on a couple of tunes. But the title track, Bebe Lestrange, is Full Zeppelin. Really good track. One of their best. You got the excellent Down on Me, a really good 12/8 blues with a spectacular vocal. Then the superb Silver Wheels. If you're in any doubt Nancy Wilson's skills as an acoustic guitarist and her finger picking style, this short instrumental will convert you. It's superb. Then the album really comes and stuck with the track Break. I think this was used to play us live. It's got loads of energy, but it just sounds a bit false to me. You can hear like the sort of the new wave influence on this. It's only 2 minutes 32, and side 1 finished with Rockin' Heaven Down. This is a really cool track. It's in drop D tuning. It's got lovely chords built around your open D string and your D-shaped chords. Great, really long end section with great multi-tracked harmonies and great vocals by Anne. Side 2 open with Even It Up, featuring one of the few guitar solos by Nancy Wilson. Really great track with a nice sax arrangement on this. Really good track. Again, next track, Strange Night. I'm not really into. They seem to be going for something kind of quirky and rocky, but never did anything for me. Next up's Raised on You. This is Nancy singing. It's a piano. You can hear the sort of Christine McVie influence here. Quite like this track. It's got a nice groove to it. And then there's Pilot, which is a nice sort of acoustic bit with drums. Quite interesting lyrics on this. Good use of synth. So those two tracks, not great but good. And then it finishes with Sweet Darling, which is what I mentioned before, which was re-recorded on Beautiful Broken. It's a lovely ballad, superb piano on this by Sue Ennis, and one of Anne's best vocal performances. So a really good album. I think this is the last one, yeah, produced by Mike Flicker, Connie and Howie, that's the Wilsons and Sue Ennis, and Howard Lees. Howard Lees gets forgotten in Heart, you know. He joined quietly after Dreamboat, Annie on keyboards, I think, for touring, and then he kind of ended up in a band. I think he was one of those guys who just knew where to fit in and how to fit in, and he stayed a long time and was a massive contributor to the band. Okay, so yeah, just edging this out is Magazine. I think it's fair to say that Beverly Strange feels like a more proper album than Magazine, because obviously this was recorded by the band and then they split from Mushroom Records and they didn't finish it properly, I don't think. So you've got cover versions and you've got a couple of live tracks on the end. But the thing for me is the tracks, studio tracks are great. The European release, you got opens with Heartless, which is actually a hit. I think they re-recorded that. Great track, really good. And then Devil Delight, this is a kind of slow rocker with a really cool vibe. One of my favourites, Just the Wine, with a beautiful guitar part by Nancy. And then a very good cover of Without You by Badfinger. Obviously people heard Mariah Carey's version and Harry Nilsson's, but they didn't write it. It was Pete Ham and Pete Evans, is it, from Badfinger, both tragically. Tom Evans, both tragically died, but they wrote Without You. Then side 2 was a Magazine. This is a great track. You can hear the Elton John influence on this. It's got that 70s vibe. Really well produced. A great guitar solo by Roger Fisher. Does a nice jazzy Dorian solo. And then a lovely little acoustic piece by Nancy called Here Song. So really good, really strong. But then, like I said, I didn't have enough tracks to make it an album. The record label said Mother Earth Blues Live, Chatham, I don't know who did it originally. And then I've Got the Music in Me, which... it's interesting. You can hear the band can really handle a cover, but it just feels glued on. So I'll give it 7.5 out of 10. That is my number 8 choice. My number 7 choice, so this is where we get into 80s Heart, and I'm going for Bad Animals. So I bought this pretty much the week it came out. I was massive into the Heart album. I've always kind of yin and yanged a bit with this album, but I'm listening to it recently. I think it's a really good AOR record. I think the production's a little better than the Heart album. My main issue with it is very synthy. There's not much rocking on this. There's only really the title track, Bad Animals, where the band dig in. But it paid off. This gave them, hits and status in Europe. This was a big hit in Britain, the track alone. The Heart album was a huge hit in the US, but not as well known. Who Do We Run To alone need no introduction. Of both great tracks, obviously using outside writers at this point. But I think you've got to give credit to the band for recognising what songs were going to work and doing an amazing job of them, I think they lost their confidence a bit with their writing. And then you got There's the Girl, Nancy Wilson, Holly Knight. This is a great song. You can hear the synth on this. And the next track, I Want You So Bad, a track I like, and Wait for an Answer. But both all kind of synthy. Bad Animals, good. You Ain't So Tough, probably the weakest track on the album, but quite nice. And Strange to the Heart, cheesy power ballad, but a lovely vocal by Nancy. Easy Target, quite good fun. This is the Wilsons and Sue Ennis. And then finally they do probably one of the absolute best tracks on RSVP, one of the top sort of acoustic ballads they did with a lovely Lydian tonality. So I give that 8 out of 10. It could seriously benefit from a remaster. But when you dive into it, the quality of the songs is there. Okay, that was my number 6 choice. Is going back to the 70s. Is Little Queen. This has got opens with two absolute classics: Barracuda and Love Alive. Obviously, Barracuda needs no introduction, really. Again, I think it shows you that that's written by the whole band, and so is the track Little Queen, but the rest, it's the Wilsons and Sue Ennis, either on their own or together collaborating. So, you know, they know how to write songs. Love Alive's brilliant. You got that great bass part by Steve Fossen. Barracuda, great drumming by Michael DeRosier. Then you got Sylvan's song and Dream of the Archer. These actually might be my favourite track, Dream of the Archer, and I might actually prefer it. Amazing. Obviously their take on Battle of Evermore, but I think it's better. Amazing layering of mandolin parts. Check out Anne's last held note, incredible. Then you got Kick It Out, which is a really fun rocker. I was really enjoying that last time, written by Ann Wilson. And that finishes side 1 really well. Side 2's not strong, and that's why I've got this album further down. Little Queen's good. Funky track. Treat Me Well. Nice ballad from Nancy. A bit dreary, but quite like it. Say Hello. Pleasant enough. Cry to Me. Again, I do like it. Nice ballad. And then Go On Cry feels kind of... I like it. It feels like a kind of more like a jam. You know, something to... you know, finish the album. So it doesn't feel as, you know, glued together, the back half of the album. I give the album an 8 out of 10, but that really is on the strength of those first 6 tracks that are really good. Okay, so into the top 5. So my number 5 choice, I think this is a really underrated album, and it's 1993's Desire Walks On. So after the 80s, and really Brigade's, it's 1990, but it's kind of, you know, it's in the 80s vibe. The band get back to writing a bit more themselves. They've got different producers in Dwayne Barron, John Purdell. And this has got more of a mix of a modern take on Old Heart and, of course, the AOR Heart. It's a bit sort of difficult to get in a nitty-gritty with this album. You've got, I had the vinyl, I think, did the vinyl have the bonus tracks? You know, it might have done. I think it did. I think my vinyl of this had the Spanish-speaking versions of the tracks. But you've actually got 2. You've got Avalon Reprise and a little opening called Desire. So when you strip all out that, you've got 11 tracks. So let's get into it. You've got Back on Black. So this has got a gallop. It's clearly like a modern take on the Barracuda, but it's really good. And Nancy Wright's with Lisa Del Bello. Back to Avalon. This is a track really good. This has the kind of 70s vibe, but with a modern take. Then you got The Woman in Me, which has got Outside Writers. This is a kind of synthy ballad, but it's nice. Rage. This is an excellent track written by the Wilsons and Sue Ennis. And then the brilliant In Walks the Night, which is superb chorus with Anne. And then My Crazy Head, maybe my favourite track on the album. Awesome chorus, brilliant backing vocals. Really well produced, this album. Then Ring Them Bells, this is a Bob Dylan cover. Lane Staley shares vocals with Anne and Nancy, and it's really, really, really special. And then the brilliant Will You Be There in the Morning, Mutt Lange song that they got a hold of. Okay, it's Outside Rights, but it's fucking stellar. This is kind of like one of those tracks where it's the last hurrah of that era. You know, that 80s holdover where you're still getting like tracks like this, but in the period of 92, 93. Brilliant, probably Nancy's best ever vocal on this. Amazing harmonies by Anne. And it's got one of the best cliche changes ever. If you write music, you know, be aware of the key change where you go up a tone. Like you're going up 2 frets on your guitar, going up the correct white note on the piano. And normally that can just be really cheesy, but it just sounds great. Yeah, you know, it really takes it up because the vocals are very stratospheric. Love this song. Then you got Voodoo Doll. This has got programmed drums, and Anything Is Possible. I don't mind these tracks. They're not as strong. They're probably the weaker tracks on the album, and then it finishes with Desire Walks On, which is a really cool track with some interesting sort of lyrics and effects on it. So I give this album an 8.5 out of 10. I would really like this album. If I've got a criticism of it, like I can't forget which not magazine. Yes, The Jupiter's Darling. It feels like a collection of songs kind of put together rather than having a cohesive focus. It's like the band aren't quite sure where to go, but I like all the tracks. So it doesn't completely work as a whole thing. Okay, my number 4 choice is Brigade. This is their 1990 release. Always liked this album at the time, but there was a lot of tracks I wasn't as fussed about, the power ballads, so I tended to like 7 or 8 tracks when I got this. But as I've gone back to it over the years, I think it's a really strong record. It's 13 tracks, produced by Richie Zito, does a good job. What this album benefits from is a bit more writing by the band, but a harder edge. After the synthness of Bad Animals, they get the guitars cranking on this, and it's got like, 4 kind of rocking tracks. It opens with Wild Child, a Mutt Lange track. This was actually originally recorded by Romeo's Daughter. This is a really good track, love it. It's got a great atmosphere when it breaks off from the riffing and there's that nice clean guitar part. All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You, another Mutt Lange track, really good. This was a big hit with quite an interesting story, lyrics. Really liked it, kind of like Who Will You Run To in a way. Secret, really good ballad, Outside Writers again. And then Tall Dark Hampson Stranger. This is written by Holly Knight and Albert Hammond. Sorry, old school writer. This is a really good rocker, really good sax arrangement on this. But it's the guitars are really rocking on this. Then I Didn't Want to Need You, Diane Warren. So yeah, got to be said. 5 tracks off the bat of Outside Writers. I Didn't Want to Need You. I mean, there's an example of power ballad. You can hear the guitars on it. It's got a guitar solo. It is a proper rock power ballad. Then you've got The Excellent The Night, which is written by Sammy Hagar, Denny Carmassi and the Wilsons. This is a really kind of Zeppelin-y heavy track. Works really well. That was the end of the first side of the vinyl. It was a really good listen, I remember. And then side 2 of the vinyl opened with Falling From Grace, which is a great track. Again, Denny Carmassi writing with Sammy Hagar and a guy called Jess Hams. Really love this. Again, loads of energy, really rocking, fantastic harmony. And then the beautiful Under the Sky, written by the Wilsons and Sue Ennis. Love that track. Now, the next track is Cruel Nights. This is written by Darren Warren. This is a 1 track on the album. I just don't really know why it's on the album. It's alright, it's canny enough. That album doesn't need it. It feels to me like the band and the label have thought, well, let's get as many tracks on that could possibly be a single. They actually did some Cruel Tears with Mark Spiro co-writing, and that was kind of more rocky, but didn't really fit. That was a B-side of. That would have been better than Cruel Nights. Stranded is written by Jamie Carl and Jeff Harrington. This is the power ballad and Nancy sings. Really good vocal on this, really like it. And then the band kick in with their own song, Call of the Wild. I actually don't like this as much as a rock with a kind of Zeppelin, Misty Mountain Hop kind of feel. But then you got the lovely I Want Your World to Turn with a great vocal by Nancy, and lovely pop track that, and the lovely I Love You, written by the Wilsons, Knight and Hammond. So again, with this album, actually looking at it, there is a lot of co-writers on it, but I just think the songs are really strong. It probably could have done with a little prune here and there. There's some other bonus tracks as well. You can get on a Japanese CD. Okay, number 3. This is it's been a really tough one. This, and people will be shocked. I'm going for Dreamboat Annie. I should say that the next 3 they could switch at any time. So if you're like, what the fuck's you put Dreamboat Annie at 3 for? It could be number 1 tomorrow. It's not an album. We need to talk about much. So we'll be doing a classic album inspection of this on the other channel when it turns 50. Magic Man, Crazy on You, amazing. Solar Sea, amazing. White Line and Wine, cool rocker. I love Love Me Like Music Will Be Your Song and How Deep It Goes. Lovely sort of almost country rock vibe to those. And then you've got the weird Sing Child with its bizarre harmonies and the mad Roger Fisher solo. So the criticism of this album is, as I love Dreamboat Annie, the song, I just don't need 3 versions of it. Maybe it would have been best to do Dreamboat Annie instead of Dreamboat Annie Fantasy Child, maybe Dreamboat Annie and then do Dreamboat Annie reprise at the end, or do the Fantasy Child at the end of beginning the album. I'm not sure, but I just don't need 3 Dreamboat Annies, although I like them all. But you can hear on this, and the band arrives fully formed. The vocals are brilliant by the sisters. All the playing's good. I think Howard Lee's actually just play on this album. Yeah, he's already in the band. Sorry, I mentioned. He did join before this. Really good. And Magic Man's just fucking mega. Brilliant record, brilliant debut album. Then my number 2 choice is, and again this was a tough one, is Dog and Butterfly. So in some ways Dreamboat Annie's maybe a little more consistent than this. This takes a while to get going, but I think the back half of an album's just stunning. It opens with Cook with Fire, High Time and High Jinks, which are the rockers. High Time's the kind of standout there. But the end of side 1 you had the excellent straight on with brilliant bass and vocal and drum production. And side 2 is just amazing. Dog and Butterfly, what a beautiful song. Lighter Touch, Another One. Lighter Touch, beautiful ballad, Another One. Incredible vocal by Nancy, amazing acoustic guitar. And then it just finishes with probably the greatest track the band ever did, which is Mistral Wind. This is just fucking incendiary. Roger Fisher co-writes on. This is probably the last thing he did with the band, really. They fell out on tour after this, but yeah, Mistral Wind's just stunning. Whenever I listen to that track, it just kind of takes me away. It's as if I'm caught up in the story world of the song. I think it's very few bands that can do that. I described the ballads on this as a kind of fireside balladry. There's something smoky and ethereal about them. And yeah, I think these lot really are the only artists who can get that mix of Joni Mitchell, Zeppelin and Fleetwood Mac and meld it into that pot. So my number 1 choice is 1985's Heart Heart. So people are probably up in arms of that. But when it came to the crunch, this album's got a special place, a special part in my life. It's the first Heart album I bought. I used to watch a show called Entertainment USA, which was presented by the now disgraced Jonathan King, who first signed Genesis. And he would go to America and he would have features on films and also on the charts. And this is where I first saw the video for What About Love. And I went out that probably about a week later, and I bought this from a shop called Kenneth Gardner's, which was a little hi-fi shop in Lancaster, near where I lived, and it had a vinyl department. It was £5.49. Annoyingly, it had an annoying crease on it. The sleeve was nearly perfect. It had an annoying crease in it. I always remember that. Anyway, look, If Looks Could Kill, What About Love, Never, These Dreams. Brilliant. And then you've got the heavy sort of hair metal of The Wolf, which I really like. All Eyes, probably the weakest track on the album for me, but still nice. Then you got Nobody's Home, lovely ballad written by the Wilsons and Sir Ennis. Brilliant, Nothing at All. What He Don't Know, a nice acoustic track, and then finishing off with another top hair metal, a Shell Shock. Very good solos by Howard Lee's on this album. The band kind of stepping up to move into the 80s and be more glammy hair rock. And yeah, people probably thought that was bad, but Capital did a wise and great job in getting the band out there. This album had 4 hit singles, nearly 5 include If Looks Could Kill, and it sold 5 million copies. The criticism of this is the use of outside writers, and the band still write 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks. But you know, it did sort of hurt the credibility. But I just think after the Private Audition and Passion Works, it was clear there was sort of needed, you know, inspiration, I guess. But again, the song choices are so good on this. It really needs remastering. If you're interested, get the Essential Heart and the 5 tracks of this album are all mastered properly. There's so many different versions of these tracks. The version I had of Nothing at All has the Frankie Sullivan guitar solo and the more intense vocal. The video for Nothing at All has the harmonised solo, the more subdued vocal on the verses, and that little whoa, whoa, whoa at the start. Never, the mix originally for the single was more guitar based. I think the mix I've got isn't. I always like the single mix. Who can forget that video? Nancy just looking fucking amazing. Other than that, then Looks Could Kill, I've actually heard a different mix of. But yeah, this album really needs all those versions bringing together and remastering. But if you listen to the Essential Heart, you do get good masters of those 5 tracks. Okay, I've waffled on for nearly half an hour, but it is Heart. It's 15 albums, it's 2 minutes per album, it's not too bad. Okay, so that's my Heart ranking. And like I said, the last 3, they could switch. So that's me getting out of jail. Okay, remember to share and subscribe, and hopefully see you again soon. Thanks very much for checking this out.